Should you be running an open or closed emitter red dot on your handgun? So first, what is an open emitter and what is a closed emitter? What's the difference between these two optics? Well, it's kind of in the name. An open emitter is when the emitter, the light emitting diode that is projecting the light onto the lens of your optic, is open to the elements, open to your environment. Same with the rear of your optic lens. What does this mean? Well, essentially it means that your optic is vulnerable to the elements. It's vulnerable to rain, dirt, dust, debris that could get in your optic and either obstruct your emitter or get on your lens and cause light refraction, preventing your dot to project clearly onto the lens of your optic. So what is a closed emitter? Well, it's in the name. It's enclosed, protected from the environment, from the elements. Unlike an open emitter where dirt, debris, rain can get in there and cause issues with your emitter or with your lens, even if you get dirt and debris on your lens, it's something you can simply wipe off with your thumb. Versus the open emitter where it can get in there, get in those little nooks and crannies, and it can be quite a hassle to clean it out. Now, something that can happen with both optics, but affects you far less with an enclosed emitter, is fogging. Fogging is when you go from a warm environment to a cold environment, or a cold environment to a warm environment, and that temperature change causes the moisture to collect on the lens of your optic that just came from that differing temperature environment. Now, with an enclosed emitter, it's not a huge deal, because you can simply take your thumb and wipe it off the lens, and that's it, it's gone. Versus an open emitter, that fog and that moisture can collect on the interior of your lens, and it can be much harder to get your finger in there or a Q-tip or something to really clean it out. Now, the reason it's not a huge problem with an enclosed emitter is because as long as it's come from a reputable company, the interior of that optic, before they fully sealed it, has been nitrogen purged. What does that mean? Well, essentially all the moisture, all possible liquid in the air has been eliminated before they sealed up the optic. So you don't have to worry about the fogging internally on the rear of your main lens. You simply have to worry about it on the outside, something you can easily wipe off. So I've owned both open and enclosed emitter optics. However, I have had issues with my open emitter optics, specifically this 507C from Holosun on this Glock 17. So just a couple weeks ago, I was at the range shooting a rifle and pistol drill, and when I went to transition to the pistol segment, I pulled my pistol out and it was just a giant red blur. The reason being, it had just started raining about 5 minutes prior, and all the water from the rain had collected inside the optic window because the pistol was like this in the holster, so all the rain coming in, a lot of rain had collected in here, and it was just a giant red blur when I tried to aim with my pistol. Now, I was still able to shoot, still able to make hits, but obviously not really having anything to aim with isn't ideal. Now, when I got home, I stripped the pistol apart, dried the optic off, put everything out to dry, and by the next day, everything seemed to be working fine. However, about a week later, I took my Glock 17 off my wall just to do some dry firing, and for some reason, I was on the circle dot setting. Now, for those unfamiliar, Holosun has multiple reticle settings. There is the dot, the circle dot, and the circle only setting on the Holosun 507C. I normally keep all my Holosuns on just the singular dot, the 2 MOA dot. That is what I prefer, but when I picked it up, it was on the circle and dot setting. Now, I assumed, okay, I must have changed it and just don't remember, so I press and held the minus button, which is this button here. It's normally the button to decrease your brightness, but if you press and hold it, you can switch reticle modes, and if you press and hold the plus button, you can switch from automatic brightness setting to manual adjustment brightness setting. So first, I press and held the minus button, and instead of it changing the reticle mode, it just changed from a circle dot to a brighter circle dot. It didn't actually change reticles. I'm like, okay, that's weird, maybe I'm in the wrong mode. So I switched from manual to automatic and automatic back. I tried taking the battery out, putting the battery back in, and no matter what I did, my minus button was now changing my brightness pretty significantly instead of actually allowing me to cycle through reticle modes. Now, to the credit of Holosun, I contacted them and they said, send it to us and we'll either fix it or we'll replace it. However, I'm still gonna be out of an optic on this pistol for at least a couple weeks. Now, following up with that story to the range, let's talk about range use, right? Do you really need an enclosed emitter for range use, or can you stick with an open emitter? Well, unless you're gonna be shooting outdoors and it's gonna be raining and you're using your pistol in the rain, you can really stick with an open emitter for the range. A lot of times an open emitter can even give you a bigger window, especially if you go with like an SRO or the Romeo 3 Max from SIG. That gives you a much bigger window, and even the Holosun 507C has a slightly bigger window than something like the Holosun 509T. So you're getting that bigger window, and it is at a lower price. So if it's simply a range pistol, a competition pistol, unless you're constantly in the elements and constantly worrying about rain, I think you'd be fine with just an open emitter for range use. Now, a situation in which enclosed emitters really take the win is duty scenarios. So scenarios with law enforcement, military, security, anything where you're carrying your optic and your pistol in an outside the waistband holster for the majority of your day. In those situations, not only do you have to worry about rain, like you even may at the range, but you have to worry about fogging and dirt and debris. Now, obviously, just walking around, dirt and debris isn't going to just find its way inside your optic unless it's super windy. However, what can happen is if you're in one of those duty scenarios where you're going hands-on with individuals, where you're fighting with individuals on the ground, when you're on the ground, dirt, debris, rocks can be scooped into your optic, and all of a sudden you draw your firearm, present it to use it, and now there's a small pebble, a small piece of dirt, either blocking your emitter or on the rear of your lens, causing issues with the display of your reticle. Now, the next use case for pistol optics to talk about is concealed carry. Many people think, well, it's concealed carry. My gun's underneath my shirt, it's underneath my jacket. I don't really have to worry about the elements too much. I'm not fighting people on a consistent basis. I should be fine with an open emitter. And you might think that, but there's a whole other world of debris and hazards that could come to your optic when you're carrying inside the waistband. Many days when I'd pull out my open emitter optic, whether it was the 507C, the 507K, I wouldn't be able to see my reticle. It would be all blurry, all wet in there because of sweat. Sweat had accumulated on my pistol within my optic throughout the day, and after a couple hours of working outside or just simply doing some hard work, my pistol optic was full of sweat. So it was just like when I was outside at the range and it had been raining, my pistol optic became almost useless because of all that sweat that had accumulated inside the optic, and that would have been prevented with an enclosed emitter. Now, other hazards with concealed carry beyond sweat is body hair, dead skin, and lint. All these things can get inside your optic and block your emitter, get on the rear of your window, and cause issues with your reticle projecting properly on the screen. And these are things that I've encountered several times where I've taken my pistol out just to check my reticle, or taken my pistol out at the end of the day, and there's a hair in front of the emitter or on the lens preventing that proper emission of that reticle onto the lens. It could also be a flake of dead skin, some lint from your shirt or your jacket. Any of these things could possibly get in there on an open emitter and prevent you from having a good, clear sight picture or a proper sight picture when you're using an open emitter for concealed carry. So the last situation to address when it comes to your pistol optics and whether you want an open or closed emitter is home defense. Now, many people use rifles for home defense. However, handguns are still a very viable option. And if you have a home defense handgun, maybe it's the backup to your rifle, or maybe it's simply the closest thing in arm's reach when you're going to bed at night, you can get away with an open emitter. In fact, I think an open emitter will work just fine for home defense. Reason being is you're not exposed to the elements, right? You're inside your home. Unless there's a natural disaster that rips off your roof, you don't have to worry about rain, you don't have to worry about dirt and debris. It's not inside your waistband, so you don't have to worry about hair and dead skin cells and sweat. So an open emitter is going to fare just fine. You're also staying in the same temperature environment unless you have multi-climate control rooms, which, I mean, it's possible, but unlikely, more than likely, all the temperature in your house is the same, right? If it's 70 degrees in your room, it's probably 70 degrees in your living room or something close, so you're not going to have to worry about your optic fogging. So for home defense, an open emitter optic, as long as you still go with something durable, is plenty viable. You don't need to get an enclosed emitter if it's just a home defense pistol. So at the end of the day, both open and enclosed emitters can be great options as long as it's coming from a reputable company, but enclosed emitters do have a lot of positives that the open emitters don't. If it's simply for the range, or if it's just for competition, or like I said, home defense, then that open emitter is going to be fine. But if you're trying to find an optic for concealed carry or for duty carry, I would highly recommend an enclosed emitter. It might cost a little more up front, but when it comes to something you're betting your life on, I think it's worth the price. If this video is helpful to you, or you simply enjoyed the video, leave a like down below. If you got any questions or simply want to share your own ideas about open versus closed pistol optics, leave a comment down below. If you're looking forward to more firearms content, more reviews, more optics, all these sorts of things, I release new videos every Saturday, so subscribe and stay tuned.